Powered by Riverside.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 5 of the Dugout Daz local sports podcast, where our skills are questionable,
but our spirit is unstoppable.
I'm your host, Michael Hughes, with my co-host,
Jonathan Parker.
Once again, we want to go ahead and just welcome everyone again to episode 5 of our podcast here. And, Jonathan, like I say, week 5 into doing our podcast it's only getting bigger and better for us. And once again, another week of high school football, another week of college football, and once again today started NFL football.
Yeah, so football Friday, football Saturday, and football Sunday. That this time of year, it just doesn't get any better. Just quickly touching on some NFL. Titans took a tough one today, up 17-0. End up, giving up a blocked punt and an interception return. And Will Levis, to me, I think the Titans are going to struggle with him. Just never been a Will Levis fan. And he just, to me, always makes too many mistakes.
And you think being up, up 17-0 at one point, that they got the game pretty much wrapped up. You think in NFL you got a 17-point league, it's kind of hard to come back from that. But once again, the Titans proved that they let us all down, right? So it's just.
But on a positive note, of course, our team yesterday, the Tennessee Vols, put a whipping 51-10 on what I was expecting to be a very tough, hard-fought game, but I don't think the score was even as close as 51-10.
No, I don't think so either. And once again, Tennessee's defense was spot on, stifling yesterday. And you look at Tennessee's defense, talking about them a little bit, is they have a whole new secondary. They replaced every single secondary member. They replaced those guys, and they showed up yesterday, and they really showed out. But you look at a defensive line, and they talked about it on the broadcast numerous times about being able to rotate in 6 to 7 guys at a time on the defensive front. That's just heard of. We hadn't had that in a long time.
No, we have not. And shout out to the kid, the pick six kid, a walk-on. And, I mean, Josh Heupel recruits Tennessee as good nationally as possible. And you have a kid make a play like that that's a walk-on. He has worked his heart out to make the team. And kudos to him.
Yeah, he took that pick, and he everything he had to get to the end zone. And that was great. It was a great pick. It was a turning point to me because NC State's going down, and probably going to tie the game up, and then they just that area, and he takes a pick six, and it just turns the game around. And Tennessee never looked back.
Never did. And Dylan Sampson again, stamped U.S. mail on that kid's butt because he carried the mail yesterday and looked really good. And you saw Nico have a couple freshman mistakes yesterday, and you're going to see that. He is a freshman still. He's going to have those freshman mistakes. Now, his second pick, that was a pick six, really wasn't on him. He had a pretty good rush, and his hand got knocked out, and the ball went up. Now, the first pick was a freshman mistake, but right after his pick six, he comes in with like a 58-yard touchdown run. So he come back, and we really wanted to see how he progressed after making an interception like that, and he did. And again, I don't think I'm pretty sure Josh Heupel is excited the way the season has got off to. I don't think they could have asked. I think I read somewhere today that's the first time they've scored 50 points in two opening games to start the season. So just keep the pedal on the gas and let's keep knocking out those W's.
Yeah, and Jonathan, if you go ahead, we can recap the local scores, local interest scores of the week, and then we'll get going.
Flipping to high school, of course. Beach with a big 7-0 win over Riverdale. Red Bull and Springs over Pickett County, 35-6. Clay County, a 35-7 win over Jackson County. Sequatchie with 33, Watertown 28. DeKalb 42, Livingston Academy 8. Westmoreland 42, White House Heritage 20. East Robertson in a tight ball game, 22-15 over Monterey. Lebanon 35, Warren County 0. Gordonsville 41, Trousdale County 0. Upperman with a 35-34 win over Macon County. And I was able to catch the tail end of that ball game. And man, what a game It was a good game last year, and this year was the same bill. And then, of course, Smith County lost to Liberty Creek 23-12. And, just highlighting some of that game for me, Smith County did some things well. I keep seeing improvements week to week, but still, penalties and a couple of mental mistakes, a couple of turnovers here and there, just can't get out of their own way at times. They'll get 2 or 3 first downs and then a holding penalty or an interception or a fumble. But for me, Cole Hackett had a great ball game, had his first touchdown of the season, a great 50-yard pass from Riley. It was a great play. But for me, I thought Cole impressed me more on the defensive side. He forced a fumble and maybe recovered a fumble as well. But he stood out to me in that game.
He did, and Cole did defensively. You're right, Jonathan. He had a great game there on the defensive side of the ball. But I also look at Jaden Evans did not play. He was injured, so he didn't play. So Caden Mason kind of had to carry the load there on the rushing side, and didn't have a bad game. Had almost 50 yards rushing. But this week, Smith County had a few more sacks than they had in the last couple of weeks. So that kind of hurt them offensively as well on that end. But you're right, penalties this week. They had 8 penalties for I forget how many yards. I wrote it down, but I hadn't looked at it. But they had 8 penalties that backed them up. And you're right, it was drive stalling penalties. They're moving down the field. They catch a big play on one and had a penalty, a holding call that backed them up. So you're right. It's almost like they're getting in their own way right now. And you go back to it. Yes, they're still young. We're in week 3. We got to get past that eventually. Right. Yes. So we can't use that for a crutch all year long. And I think Matt and his staff will do a good job, and they'll get over that hump. And hopefully get some wins on the board the next couple of weeks.
Well, and you look at it, the yardage situation in their 3 games have been right there with, pretty much even, and you just get to those penalties, 8 for 45, 2 fumbles and an interception. Those are just the negative things that are happening right now that, once they get cleaned up, good things are going to start happening.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Matt, the schedule don't get any easier with Macon County coming to town next week. Macon County, like you mentioned earlier, John, played in a nail-biter against Upperman Friday night. It's one of the best high school games I've ever watched as well. But Macon County coming to Smith County High School Stadium, and, it don't get any easier for Matt and his guys, and I'm sure that they know this, and I'm sure they're going to work on this. And when it comes to speed, the Borders kids from Macon County coming in, both of those guys have speed, and I don't know if Smith County's seen that speed yet. So hopefully they have something, in store for those guys.
Exactly. The Borders kids are just extremely impressive. And they've got a quarterback that manages the offense pretty well. They took it to a really good Upperman team and just, come up a missed extra point away from that game going to overtime. And, who knows at that point.
Yeah, you watch. Speaking of the Upper Macon County game, you look at that, and the Borders kid of Macon County, those guys. But the Chaffin kid, the quarterback for Upperman, was amazing to me. After they go down 21-0, and they come back, the way he played and the way he led his offense, and the Paul guy that was running the ball, man, what a 1-2 combination they got.
Yes, they got down 21-0. They didn't let it phase them. They just fought back and hard fought victory there. So it will be tough coming up this Friday night in the hole, but want to see everybody out there and supporting the Owls as they go against the Tigers.
Yep. And shifting gears over to the Gornsville side of the house, Gornsville had another rivalry game against Trousdale County this week, and like Trousdale County comes in, Gornsville shuts them out. Once again, Gornsville's running back beast had a well of a game. 5 touchdowns combined, returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Had 4 rushing touchdowns and over 150 yards rushing, if I'm not mistaken. Going back, look at that. And then the defense for Gornsville just pounded on Trousdale County and held them to 66 yards total offense.
Yes. And I mean, when you look at that classification and single A classification and you turn out 343 yards of total offense and you hold your opponent to 66 yards, it's not going to be a good day on the other end. For Trousdale County, very young, very inexperienced team. But man, shout out to Bryson Grissom. 4 touchdowns rushing and a kickoff return to start the game. you know, what cannot be said about this kid right now? He's on fire. You know, and then, you know, they get a late touchdown from a freshman. You know, like you and I have talked about, you know, there is talent in both of our schools that is young talent.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be exciting to see the next 2, 3, 4 years at what these two teams can do.
Yeah, and just looking at the stats as well, Gainesville played a lot of young guys, like you said. It looks like Cruz Fry got into action at playing a little quarterback. They had some running backs come in and actually run the ball. Young kids, you know, like Turner Booker, a young kid that come up from middle school that carried the ball and had a few good yards when he touched the ball. And then your receivers, you know, the young guys that are catching the balls. You know, you got Dalton Hancock, who is their senior leader in that receiving corps. But then you got somebody like Waylon Kennedy that comes in that can catch the ball, that has the speed to, you know, to break one open and go down the field.
And again, I harbor back again. Their offensive and defensive line just, you know, just impressive. And again, I want to touch on the negative a little bit too, because I know Coach Jackson would want this to be said too. 8 penalties, for 70 yards. You know, you get in a close ball game with that's going to be coming up soon. Those 8 penalties could come up and bite you.
And they could. You're right. You start reaching play this week. Yeah, Joe Burns coming into town. You start reaching play, and then, you know, those 8 penalties for 70 yards may cost you a touchdown. May wipe one off the board. You know, it's like Smith County this past week against Liberty Creek. You know, a big long play that goes for a touchdown gets wiped off because of a penalty. You know, so those could come handy. And you're right. I'm sure Coach Jackson will get that sold up and work on that. And Coach Jackson, let's go ahead and invite him in here and join us here. Coach Jackson, once again, thanks for joining us here on the Dugout Dads podcast, and congrats on your win this week.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It's good to have you on, Coach Jackson, again. Talk a little bit about this past weekend or this Friday night, and tell us how you feel.
I mean, I thought it was a good night. You know, it's always good to get your first home game at home. You know, get in front of your home crowd, you know, all the hard work it goes into the stadium and stuff, and be able to show that off, which we've been able to show it off, been at, you know, middle school games. But, you know, to get a high school game there is great, and we got 4 straight. So, you know, it's a great thing. You know, I thought it was a good night, you know, from the opening kickoff, being able to run the opening kickoff back. So, you know, kids came out and played hard. You know, it's a really hard thing to get a shutout these days, and to get a shutout and have the young guys come in and show out and keep that shutout was a huge accomplishment.
You know, and when you look at it, Coach Jackson, everybody loves offense, right? Everybody loves to see the points put on the board. But if you look at it, your defense gave up 66 total yards. What a performance by your defense Friday night.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's like you said, with offenses these days and how multiple they are, and Charlesville, they had not been in the wing tee yet this year, and they came out, you know, in the wing tee. So it was kind of a thing to where, you know, it was good for us because our kids had to go back on the rules. I mean, we had a game plan going into it, and, you know, wing tee's totally different, you know, offense than a 2-back, you know, flex look, or 3-by-1, 2-by-2. So kids had to go back on their rules, and, you know, I thought they did a great job of we saw. But, yeah, I mean, it's a great night when you can get a, you know, hold a team to 65 yards, you know. And like I said, it's with offenses these days, it's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
So, Coach Jackson, all 3 phases of the game right now are working great for y'all. What are some of the areas that are you looking to improve on, you know, moving forward? And how are you going to keep these kids focused? You know, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids, they start feeling themselves. They start feeling cocky. You know, we all been there. We all know.
Yes. Well, and I mean, even in, you know, the college game, I mean, that's one thing that Nick Saban always talked about with, you know, listening to the media, looking at the pose and all that stuff. But I mean, I feel like we have an older group. You know, we've got 11 seniors, and a lot of those guys have been on the field, so they understand what it takes. And, yeah, I mean, it's a thing to where you're always going to listen to how good you are, you know, and you know, it's a battle every day to make sure you bring it in practice. And I feel like that's, you know, the job of mine, you know, myself and the coaching staff, to make sure that we stay humble. We try to talk to our kids all the time about, you know, you're going either have something good happen to you, you're going to have something bad to happen to you. You're on the football field in life, and it's all about how you respond to that is your character and how you handle yourself. So, I feel like our kids are doing a good job of handling that.
Yeah, and once again, you look at it, you can't speak. You got to speak highly of Bryson Grissom. 5 touchdown total, 9 for him. But your offensive front, that makes that wheel turn with your offensive front up there. But on a game like this, you got a lot of young guys, got a lot of action, and it's only going to do nothing but help you out throughout the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, so and that's what every kid gets the opportunity, to be at practice every single day in the summers, from 7 o'clock to 9:30. And I mean, you get an opportunity, to get up by, 5 scores or whatever it is, 4 scores for some people, they deserve an opportunity to get in a ball game. I mean, I don't feel like, I ever want to run the score up on anybody. I've been on both sides of those before, so I want to give our kids an opportunity to get on the football field and experience that Friday night, not just stand on the bench all night.
Well, Coach, we know we got Joe Burns coming up this week, back in the jungle. What have you seen from them? I know you've watched film on them. What are you seeing for them coming up this Friday night?
It's Joe Burns has always got size. I mean, they've got some big old linemen. They have a skilled kid, Amari. I can't for sure remember his last name. He's number 0. But, man, he is one of the most talented kids that you'll watch on the football field. And I mean, he's a guy that I was fortunate enough to be able to play against C.J. Taylor, not play against him, coach against him, that was from Warren County that's at Vanderbilt now. He reminds me of that guy, just really dynamic. They might have a play called, zone right, and he might hit it out the left side. But he's just a very talented guy that has got a bunch of touchdowns this year, that's got a pick 6 against Whitwell last week late in the ball game. And defensively, he plays free safety and he fills the alley. I mean, if you throw a bubble, you run the tall sweep, he's filling the alley. So he's a really good football player, but they've got some other guys that, are, at least a couple year starters. It was back from last year. They've got a quarterback. He played quarterback last year, but they also had another quarterback that played. Got a really talented number. He's number 5. As far as names, I always just get numbers. I don't ever get names. Yeah. I know.
Well, Coach Jackson, we appreciate you coming on with us. We wish you all the best of luck. Congratulations on being 3-0 and look to go 1-0 this week, I know, and good luck over there in Gordonsville this week.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate y'all doing this.
Thanks.
Thanks, Coach Jackson.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
You too.
Michael, for me, they're playing a really all 3 phases of the on the football field right now are just working so well. It's just a well-oiled machine right now.
There it is. Like I say, defensively, and I still go back to it. The first night we saw them against Smith County, their defensive front is one of the fastest fronts that I've seen so far this year. And, to hold Trousdale, which, Trousdale, are they young? Yes, Trousdale's young right now. But to hold any team to less than 160 yards, less than 100 yards of total offense is in high school football, like Coach Jackson just said, in high school football, with the offenses that we run, or not we, that everybody runs, to hold them to less than 100 yards, it's great.
Well, and you know as well as I do, and like we talked about earlier, that single A classification, you normally get, you don't have as many kids, and it's very hard to hold teams to under 200 yards, and then they held under 100. So shout out to kudos to them.
Yeah, and we apologize for Coach Jackson. We had a little Wi-Fi going there for him there, but it's okay. We'll get that fixed in our next episodes. But we're waiting on Coach Dyer to join us next from Smith County High School, and then we'll go to Coach Murph Murray from White House Heritage High School after that. But just talking about Gornsville just a little bit more, they got Joe Burns coming in, and as Coach Jackson said, they got a kid that reminds him of a kid that he's coached against before. Joe Burns comes in; they're always a tough knit program when they come in, but to get them at home for your first region game is definitely got to be an upper hand for Gornsville.
100%. You always, and Coach Jackson, look, he's coached against a lot of really good kids. He's coached. Coaching coming from Trousdale County, then going to Oakland. He's coached against some really good kids. And when you start, saying he's comparing this kid to a kid that's starting at Vanderbilt, he's got an eye for this, so he knows. So it sounds like to me this kid will be a key focus for them in stopping him, this Friday night.
Yeah, and as we still wait for Coach Dyer to come in, just a few of the people who got involved in the Gornsville game. You had Bryson Grissom, he had 126 yards on 12 carries, 5 total touchdowns. That's a great night for a kid in the high school level. You had the Camrick Stott kid, who's a freshman that come in from Trousdale County into Gornsville to play for those guys, had 1 carry, 45-yard touchdown run. You look at Turner Booker, and it looks like Wyatt Claywell. Cruz Fry had a couple carries for a few yards. Justin Ragdale comes in and gets some. And we didn't get to talk to Coach Jackson about this, but he had a 300 monster at quarterback last week. You start Mason Cross, you bring in Jay Foster, and then you also get to get Cruz Fry to get some action as well.
Yes, and just getting these kids more action. It looks like they're trying to get Jay more reps. But man, I mean, Mason Cross is playing a great brand of football right now.
He is.
And, it's just impressive for me to see a kid, backup quarterbacks are, it's difficult at times, and especially, in the smaller classifications, to have a kid step in for probably their best player in Jay and do the job that he's done. It just, kudos to him too.
Yeah, like I say, we're going into region play now, so you don't want to push Jay back any quicker than you have to, like Coach Jackson actually told us last week. But region play starting, you want to be number 1 in the region. You want to host, as far as you can go in the playoffs. So I figure you see Jay Foster play a few more snaps this week.
Yes.
Like I say, we're still waiting on Coach Dyer to join us here, and then we'll recap the Smith County Liberty Creek game with him. And moving to Smith County, as we mentioned, Macon County comes to town this week. Not an easy task. And we all know how good the Borders kids are. We've talked about them numerous times. When it comes to speed, those two kids have speed.
Yes, and Coach Kyle up there, he's going to have those boys ready to come down here. It's kind of a close rivalry game. Border each other, and it's always a fight. Coming out of Macon County, wherever and whenever.
Yeah, and them coming off a loss to Upperman like they did, and I'm sure they're going to. I don't expect them to have a letdown coming down to Smith County to play, because once again, Smith County Lafayette's always been a rivalry as well, right? So they never liked each other, and what's funny about it is you see Coach Dyer's dad, who coached at Smith County and Macon County, and now Coach Dyer himself coached at Smith County and Macon County.
Right.
So what a transition there for both of those guys to come back and to coach both teams. And I really think that Matt will have his guys. They'll come back in and they'll get their offense where it's supposed to be. And right now, to me, it's just a depth for those guys. They don't really have a lot of depth, and they're short on lineman depth right now. And so those guys are playing a lot of both ways.
Well, and you look at this game for me, could it be a trap game? Could it be, coming off a huge emotional, Macon County, that was an emotional loss, Friday night against Upperman. Could this be a trap game for them? Could they come in, licking their wounds, not, maybe not taking Smith County, maybe taking them lightly? You look at, Smith County's 0-3, are they going to be looking over them? Could it be an emotional letdown? We will see.
Yeah, we'll see, and we hope. On Smith County side, those guys have got to know that Macon County's coming in, and they got a 2-headed beast with both Borders kid. Their game has to step up this week. Is it a region game? No, it's not a region game. But at this point right now, you're 0-3. It's a pride game.
Yes.
You've got to have some pride. You've got to come in. You've got to start battling each other. You've got to start getting rid of these penalties you've had over the last few weeks that's hurt you. And it's time to step up, right? And Macon County coming in, there's no better game to step up than now.
Exactly.
Like I say, we're still waiting on Coach Dyer to come in. He'll be here and join us in just a few minutes. As we mentioned, after Coach Dyer, we will have White House Heritage head coach Murph Murray, who is a former Smith County head coach and a former Smith County alum. Murph was a great running back, so we looking forward to talking to him and about his program, where they're at right now. But, but focusing back here on Smith County once again, in Smith County, we talked to Matt last week, his schedule don't get any easier because he's got Macon County, he's got Upperman, he's got East Robb. These guys coming down the line, it is time for these guys to step up and start playing.
Yes, it sure is. And I have full confidence that they're going to. We talk about the inexperience. We're 3 games in now. There's growth there. Sure, there's room for improvement, but I have seen it. There have been improvements each week, and they just continue to get better. And they're going to put a full game together sooner rather than later. And
you look at Riley Martin. Riley Martin has had a great year so far at the quarterback position. He's only threw a couple of interceptions. He's thrown the ball well. He's thrown for over 150 yards every game that he's played in. But just last week at Liberty Creek, once again, we had a big long pass play that got wiped off from a penalty, right? It's just little things like that Smith County's got to correct. And once they get those corrected, I do see them start getting in the win column.
And while we're waiting on Matt, I'll just run down the quick few of the matchups we got coming up this week.
Sure.
We got Monterey at Clay County. We got Watertown at DeKalb, Red Bowling Springs at Mount Juliet Christian, Republic at Trousdale County, Cheatham County at White House Heritage. Of course, we got Joe Burns at Gornsville, and then Macon County comes to Smith County. So a lot of good matchups. We're starting to get into region play for some of these schools, and now the calendar's ticking. We're at week 4, so these matchups are going to get tougher as we get into region play.
Yeah, and look at Gornsville starts the region play this week, and as Coach Jackson mentioned, they got 4 straight home games, and you couldn't ask for nothing better to have 4 straight home games, especially going into region play.
Yes, and I think that's going to help. Their early season playing the teams that they played, and now they're getting home games. So keeping the kids focused may be a little bit easier because you're going to be at home. You're not traveling. You're going to see them a lot more. So, I think that's going to help them, build on the focus and the strengths of this team. And again, I know Coach Jackson wants to improve in some areas because, look, nothing's perfect right now, but it's a machine and there's going to be mistakes. But for right now, it looks good if you're a Gornsville Tiger.
It does. And like I say, you're 3-0. You're going into region play, and you're looking to go 4-0 and 1-0 in region play. Gornsville is probably going to be pushed by Clay County in their region. Like I say, Joe Burns in their region as well, but you see that they have a good player as well. Traditionally, Gornsville's handled Joe Burns pretty good. But you got Clay County, who is still trucking along in that region with Gornsville. So looking at the Gornsville getting that 4th win this week will be huge for those guys at home. And like you say, I know that Coach Jackson will have those guys ready to go. And Coach Dyer's here to actually join us. We'll go ahead and let Coach Dyer in. Coach Dyer, thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys, sorry about that. I had a little technical difficulties.
No worries.
That's okay. We've already had one ourselves. No big deal.
I got you. I was scrambling for a charger. My laptop died and everything. I was like, oh, crap.
It's always something with technology, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah, and once again, we appreciate you coming in and, talk about last Friday night. We didn't get the results we wanted to, but, we did see some positives that come out from the guys. Offensively, you threw the ball around very well. You threw the ball around very well. We feel like, just going back and looking, you start a couple of drives, you get going those drives, and a couple of penalties would hinder you there a little bit. But talk about that just a little bit if you don't care.
Yeah, we showed a lot of growth, a lot of development, and a lot of improvement across the board. And we had our coaches meeting today, and going back watching the film, and we're just a couple of little things here and there from preventing big plays or giving up big plays or even creating big plays for us offensively. But, we'll touch on each one of those. First off, our first drive of the night, the first offensive drive, it was a 6.5, 7-minute drive that we were very efficient. We got first downs. We moved the ball through the air. We moved it on the ground. We ran the ball well. Like you said, we were throwing and catching the ball well in our intermediate quick passing game. And then we get down, I think it was inside the 35 or 30-yard line, and we have one bad snap that takes us from, I think, 2nd and 9. Let me back up. We had a misread. We on our first down play, we just got the first down. We blocked our read guy, so a missed assignment, an MA, and our back didn't know what to do with the ball, so it goes from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 9 on a busted play. 2nd and 9, we get the bad snap. Now it turns into 3rd and 12, and then on 3rd and 12, we get the intentional grounding, and it goes from 3rd and 12 on Liberty Creek's 30-35 to 3rd and 35 on our side of our 40. And, we went from 2-down territory already dialing up a 4th down play if we didn't get a first down to, well, now we're having to punt the ball. And so we had a 6.5+ minute drive that we got nothing to show for. And then we punt the ball 8 yards.
Yeah.
So, and, that's good teams, experienced teams. They overcome that. And that's what we're still trying to learn how to do. It's just, we can't let events snowball on us like that. And it's tough with like we've mentioned it before, young, inexperienced team. We've just got to learn better to react better to adverse situations like that. Not let a bad snap put us behind the chains. Not let a penalty put us, on our side of the 50 where now it's not 4-down territory, and then not even punt the ball for a first down. But then defensively, that next drive, we had a couple of missed assignments that led to some 12, 15-yard gains for Liberty Creek. But our defense did a great job of answering by holding them to a field goal. And instead of, Liberty Creek going up either 6-0 or 7-0, it was 3-0. And then we score on our next possession to go up 6-0. So defense played very well there early. But now we gave another thing that hurt us was the long kick return. So, all year we've talked about trying to protect our young defense, and we've done that every week with opening the game up by taking the ball. Last few years we either are going to kick or defer because we wanted our experienced defense to kind of set the tone. Now we try to protect our defense by starting the ball with offense, and we can't leave our defense out to dry with short field. So, we were up 6-3. We give up the long kick return, and now our defense has to bow its backs against a short field. We end up giving up a touchdown. They go up. I think it was a 10-6.
Yep.
And then we give up the long run, I believe, before halftime, and they go in the halftime lead was 17-6.
17-6,
yeah, 17-6 at halftime. So, but we come out at half. We put a good drive together. So we get a stop defensively, and we had a very good third quarter. Actually, going back and looking at the stats, I think time of possession and play wise, and even the touchdown there that we had, all in the third quarter. Liberty Creek maybe only ran, I think, 5 or 6 plays in the third quarter. So we had a really good third quarter. But then in the fourth quarter, we give up another play, and, we caused a turnover. I think it was still, I think it was 12-17. We cut the lead down to 5. We get the stop. We get the fumble recovery, and, we take a chance on a shot. That was something we thought we liked. Their kid made a heck of a play on the interception.
Yeah.
And, but, like you said, we saw growth. We saw improvement. It was just a missed assignment here and there that, kind of put us in bad situations. But I thought a lot of young guys did very well. Lucas Cornwell started the whole game as our our sniffer, tight end, whatever. He had a very good night. Rustin Kemp started most of the game at linebacker. He did a pretty good job. And then we moved Will Barnes around a little bit, put him more of that outside linebacker. He had a good night. And then even Cade Mason, when he had a chance to, ran the ball very well. And, just we created some big plays offensively too. I believe both our touchdown passes were, 45 and 50 yards.
Yep.
But just one thing that we talked about just hurting us is penalties and negative yardage plays. And that put us behind the chains one too many times and giving up big plays. So, but, once again, late in the ball game, it was very similar to week 1 against Gornsville. We had a chance down 5 that our defense got the turnover. We had a chance to take the lead or, at least get back in the ball game before giving up another big play. And so that's what our guys are doing. They're fighting hard. They're playing for 4 full quarters. And this is invaluable experience that they're going to gain leading to the, rest of this season and for the next few seasons. But, biggest thing we tell our guys, guys, we're not even into region play yet. We've played a 4A school, a 3A school that's probably going to be 5A next year. And now we're getting ready to play another 4A school. So, we're playing very good competition, playing very good football teams. And it's only going to make us better heading into the region part of our schedule and leading into the playoffs.
Well, Coach Dyer, for me, just you naming off the names and you named them off, and all I'm hearing is freshman, sophomore, So, but from that perspective, from what I have seen from week 1 or from the Jamboree till now, there's growth. You're getting better. You were 1 score away. I mean, you gave up a big play. You'll lose 23-12, but really and truthfully, that's a 1-score game. When you get the turnover, you do try the shot play, which, the kid did make a great play on, but Kaysen almost came down with it.
Yep.
And, it could have changed the game against a really good Liberty Creek team who, like you say, is probably going to be a 5A school before it's all said and done.
Yeah, like you said, and there's more guys too that have shown improvement. Like I said, I've mentioned those young guys, but even Riley. Riley is getting better. Wyatt Claywell, Jermaine, all these guys, they're making plays. Cole Hackett. But like you said, the guys that are making plays for us are mostly our freshmen and sophomores. Mm-hmm. But it is, as long as you see that growth, that development, that improvement, and even our older guys too. Paxton had a really good night. Paxton Hicks had a good night at guard and linebacker, and Ethan Montgomery had a good night. So, I mean, we're seeing guys get better. And, it's just that's what you want out of a young bunch. You want them to gain experience, gain confidence, and by the time you start region play, that you can put all that together. And I think, we threw for just a hair under 200 yards. Mm-hmm. I think Riley was
198.
198, yeah, 198 and 2 touchdowns. And that's what I can't remember who I was talking to about it, but it's not like we're turning the ball over a lot either. I think through 3 games, we've only turned the ball over 3 times, I believe.
Yep.
Not including turnover on downs, but I think we've thrown 3 interceptions. I don't think we've lost a fumble. Now, we're not creating a lot of turnovers either. I think we've only recovered 2 or 3 fumbles. So we're either +1 or -1 in the turnover department. It's just penalties and negative yardage plays are just putting us behind the sticks to where it's taking us out of field position wherever we go for it on 4th down, don't get it, or have to punt. And, we actually, every game, our time of possession has been higher than the other team. Now, it's been close, but I think Gornsville, we had the ball 3 extra minutes, DeKalb 2 extra, and then last Friday night, it was nearly even between us and Liberty Creek. So we're possessing the ball, and, we're getting first downs, and we're moving the ball yardage-wise. We're not scoring points when we get chances to, and, we're getting behind the sticks to where we're getting a lot of 2nd and 15s or 3rd and 12s or something like that. And those are little things that if we could fix to extend our drives, it could lead to more success. But, and defensively, we've just got to create more stops. And, we knew that was going to be an issue coming this year, that we would have hard times stopping people consistently and effectively. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to line up, block, and tackle, and that's what we're teaching our guys to do. And that's what our guys are learning to do. You know, they're making their calls, they're making their adjustments, they're communicating, and you know, we got to get more stops and give our offense more possessions to where we can put more points on the board.
So let's go ahead and let's shift gears. You know, moving past Liberty Creek. You know, you know, and everybody knows your schedules don't get any easier. Macon County coming to town. You know, let's talk about Macon County just for a little bit and what you see from those guys. And we all know the Borders brothers, or speed they got. But what you see from them, and you know what your plan is going forward for this Friday night.
Well, like you said, they're another 4A team. They went to the state quarterfinals last year, a region runner-up to Upperman. They play in a very hard, very tough region. You know, it's them, Upperman, White County, DeKalb, Stone Memorial. So it's a deep region, and there's going to be a team with that probably has a 6 or 7 win schedule that doesn't make the playoffs in that region, and it's a very competitive region. But them and Upperman had a barn burner last week. Upperman, probably another team that will be competing for a 4A state championship again this year. I think it was 35-34. Upperman have beaten them last week. But you mentioned the Border Twins. They are very phenomenal, exceptional football players. They have great speed, but they're just great athletes as well. They're not just straight fast line runners. They are straight fast line runners, but they're also just very shifty, very quick. And, you know, I don't think either one of them weighs more than 150 pounds, but they play like they weigh about 180, 190. You know, they're very hard-nosed, tough football players. They know how to position their bodies to where you don't get a clean hit on them. You know, a lot of times when people think about undersized small backs, it's like, oh, they get hit hard and blah, 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 blah. You know, they get hurt. But they know how to, you know, roll the shoulders. They know how to juke, sidestep, spin, move in space to where you're not going to get a clean shot on them. And they're very physical runners as well. They get downhill. They'll lower the shoulder on you. They'll run you over if they get a chance. And they're both actually very great blockers as well. Yeah. You know, they use them as those wings on the strong side, weak side, double teams, kickouts, you know, down blocks. But they're just two phenomenal, great football players. And, of course, Gabe, you know, being a 2-time Mr. Football finalist, and Zach, who's been hurt most of, you know, his high school career, he's now a very great compliment to Gabe. But, you know, outside of them, too, they are still an experienced football team. Yeah. You know, they're I want to say they've got 14 to 15, maybe 16 seniors on their team. I can't remember. Guys that have played a lot of football games that started since they were sophomores. So, you know, they're an extremely deep team as well. I think they got like 80-something kids on the roster. So they're an experienced, deep team with 2 studs. Yeah. So, you know, that leads to you being a successful football team. And they've played in a lot of big football games. You know, of course, having that region they play in, they've played those big games. And, of course, we've played them in some really big games too. But they're an experienced football team with 2 really good football players, and Coach Shoulders does a great job with that team, with that program. And it's going to be a tough game for us. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere, though. Macon County always travels well. We get them home here this year. So, you know, it's going to be a great experience, great event, great football kind of feel. The weather's also kind of cooling off, where we get more of that kind of fall football weather. Yeah, you know, college football is kicking off, NFL's kicking off. It's just great football season right now. Where high school, college, pros, everything, weather, it's all coming together. I think, gosh, it's hard to believe we're already into week 4 of our high school season. It's just it's flying by. But yeah, it is going to be a very tough football game. Where we're just going to have to be able to line up and play assignment sound football. And we're going to have to try our best not to give up big plays, because that's the biggest thing that Macon relies on is, they're good at, you know, sitting there and pounding you, but they really want to bust a big play on you. And not so much like in a passing situation, but they want to lull you to sleep by running power and trap and belly, where now we can hit you with a reverse or a counter or a double handoff or a slice or something that we're want to bust it for 50 to 40 yards, or a jet sweep. You know, biggest thing, when you see them start moving Gabe and Zach around, you know, if you see them out in a twins or a spread and now they're both out wide, expect something's coming, whether it's a double pass or a jet pass or something like that. When something's out of the ordinary with them, then it's coming. When you see that that's a odd formation or odd placement of either of the borders, then you better have your eyes open because something's coming, something out of the ordinary, something gimmicky. But yeah, they're a very tough team to prepare for, get ready for, and for us to play.
Well, Coach Dyer, we wish you the best of luck this Friday night. We know you'll have the boys ready to go, and good luck against Macon County. And we wish you the best.
Guys, appreciate you and what you do, man. Glad y'all doing this. Okay?
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Coach Dyer.
See you guys.
And Michael, for me, I can feel Coach Dyer's excitement. I can see it in his eyes. I know the season hasn't started off like they wanted it to.
Yeah.
But and I can see it in his eyes. He knows they're close.
Yeah, he knows. You're right. There are, and there's just little things that they've got to correct. And once they correct those little things, I see you guys. Those guys will actually start getting some W's on the board. But once again, Macon County coming in, we all know, the Borders brothers. There's just, there's that speed there, and like Coach Dyer said, he's got to figure out how they can not let the big plays happen.
I think it's been said before: speed kills.
Speed kills. So we're going to move on to our next guest. We're going to let in Coach Murph Murray, old Smith County great here. He's come from Smith County and now head coach at White House Heritage. Coach Murray, thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on with us, Coach. So, Coach, we know, we know that you are in White House Heritage, and tell us a little bit how your season's going so far.
Well, it's not gone as expected. We were hoping to be 3-0 at this point, and we've gone on to be 1-2. So we're a little bit disappointed where we're at, but we're about to start our region run, and we're really excited about that. We've played some good ball and done some good things, and we've just come up against some really, really physical opponents here the last couple of weeks. We started off with a big win at Harpeth. Then we let one slip away from us at East Hickman a couple of weeks ago, one of the most physical football teams you're ever going to see. And then last week, we just had several issues and didn't play very well against Westmoreland. And that's on us. And everybody knows what kind of football team Westmoreland is. So we're not scrapping anything. We're going to continue to work. And I think the season's going to go up from here.
Now, Coach, tell us who all is in your region.
Well, it's us, Fairview, Sycamore, Cheatham County, and Stewart County.
And looking at Coach Murray, you're looking at just going by, and I look at your 3 games as far offensively. You guys are putting up some points. You're putting up some yardage. And you look at your quarterback situation. X, your son's a quarterback who we've seen him play for a long time, growing up through the years. He's turned into be a really great quarterback. But offensively, you guys are putting up some numbers and yards right now.
Well, I appreciate that. You guys have seen a little bit of X in your day. So he's continued to work hard, and our offense, our whole team's really worked hard. We've just had a little more difficulty on defense this season, but we have played well offensively for the most part. There's still a lot of things we need to clean up. We're averaging over 400 yards of offense a game. I think we're throwing for just under 300, rushing for just a little bit over 100. So the offense is kind of clicking the way we want. Last week, I think we were 26 passes, 26 runs, pretty balanced. And anytime you're, putting up 400 points or 400 yards a game offensively, you've got to be pleased. And one of the East Hickman game, we had 3 called back, or that game would have been over 500 yards passing alone. We didn't rush a lot that game. They weren't giving us that. What they were giving us was the pass, and that's what we take. And we probably actually threw for a little bit over 500 yards that night. And offensively, we're clicking. But the other night, we had some difficulty scoring. We ended up trying to kick a field goal, had it blocked. A couple of 4th downs we missed. Ran back into the read guy instead of following our hole a couple times, and missed a couple big blocks. So we made a couple of mistakes here and there that we normally don't make, that we've got to clean up. And if we clean those things up, we think we've got an opportunity to score a lot of points.
Well, Coach Murray, talk about some of the challenges you face being in you're in a larger county. You're bigger than Smith County. Talk about some of the challenges you face against competing against other other schools in your county with players?
We've got a really good county as far as football goes. We don't play Springfield, but Springfield's predominantly a great. We do some 7-on-7 with them. We play Greenbrier. They're predominantly a really good football team. Of course, everybody in Smith County knows East Robb. We play them. They're on the schedule. So this is a very, very difficult town for football.
Yeah, we talk about, we're going to look at. I was looking at your roster earlier and talk about a little about your roster. I think you got 10 to 11 seniors. I think what I counted. Talk about a little bit about your roster, what you have. Some of your players. Give a shout out to those guys. Talk about your defense a little bit as well, if you would.
Well, we've got about, I think we have 12 seniors. Probably maybe 3 of those didn't play last year. This is a couple of them. It's their first time playing. One that's been a real pleasure to have around is I can't remember, number 2, our receiver, Price Payne, came in off the basketball court and probably our second leading receiver right now. He's doing a great job for us. The rest of our senior class, when I got here, I feel like we were lacking a little bit in senior leadership. And those guys last year kind of came around toward the end of the season. We're trying to do the things we were asking them to do. And that's kind of carried over, but we're still not where we want leadership-wise. And we're trying to stress that to these players right now, especially these seniors, and especially as the season hasn't gone the way we expected early. A lot of what happens here is going to be on their back and on their shoulders. Everything normally is going to come back on me, but a lot goes on those seniors right now. I tell them all the time, if I have to lead the program, it's going to be average. And if our players lead the program, then we have a chance to be great. So that's what we're trying to sell and instill in them. And I think they're getting bits and pieces of it, but still, I've been here about 13 months now. So everything that we're wanting and all the expectations are still not ingrained and in there the way we want, but they are doing a great job. There's some other guys. Eric Lopez is a great receiver for us. Dason Springer is probably leading the state in receiving yards right now, if not close, and probably one of the top guys in touchdowns. X is doing a great job, as everybody knows. I think he's the number 2 in the country passing yards wise for his age group. He's like 37th overall. I think he's number 1 for his age group in the state. So couldn't be more pleased with the way he's advanced into his sophomore year. But he still has a long way to go, and he's making a lot of bad reads and doing some bad things that he has to clean up as well. He's in the same boat as most young quarterbacks are. He still does some boneheaded things that we have to get on him about. Defensively, we just have to clean up our technique, and it's something we've stressed and something we've worked on. And when you run an offense like we run, it's pretty much, fast break basketball on grass is what you could call it. We're spread out and we're running the ball. We've got screens and we're throwing it deep. And, we try to do our best to make you cover the entire field. And we try to play as fast as the game allows us to play. And while doing that, that's also what we work on in the spring. That's also what we work on in the summer. That's also what we work on in the early fall, because you want to clean yourself up and do those things. And then we come out and we play a good Harpeth team, beat them, and they're, of course, smash mouth, power eye type offense. And then the next week we play East Hickman, who, by the way, everybody's going to be stunned. East Hickman was, I think, 4-6 last year. Weren't a great football team. We got a pretty good win over them. Scored a couple of times late last year. This year, you mark it down, they'll be 9-1, 10-0 going into the playoffs. They're one of the most violent football teams you will ever see. And that game, we kind of let it slip away. About halfway through the third quarter, we were up by 10 points, and I think we were 6 for 6. Every time we'd had the ball, we'd scored, and they did a great job, shut us down. And then you come back the next week, and you've got to play an abusive Westmoreland team who's block down, pull everybody in the world and kick. And that's just not the kind of thing we're used to. Our guys were physical, but the reads are different from what you have to do. And for some reason, single wing and wing T are giving us an issue at the moment, scoring wise, and us stopping them. I don't think it's a player thing. I feel like the kids are giving us everything they have. I feel like they're fighting. They come to work every day. They're working on their technique. Now, we stray away from that technique from time to time. But for the most part, it's just one big mess up here and one big mess up here. And it's costing us against these wing T and single wing football teams.
Yeah, and looking at your schedule, me and Jonathan was talking about your schedule earlier. It looks like you start region play this week. So your first region matchup talk about that team a little bit, what you expect from them, and where you go from here.
Well, it's going to be Cheatham County, and you ask what to expect. It's just like everybody else. When you get into a region game, there's 3 or 4 of us there that are just a player or 2 away with who's going to be the region champion. We feel Fairview is always good. Of course, it was us and them last year that fought it out for the region championship week 10. I hope that's the situation again this year. Sycamore, I think we had a 7-point win against them. We had a 7-point win against Cheatham County last year. So the whole region, every week you got to come ready to play. Now they had a big loss. Their quarterback that they had last year, I think he started 4 years, and he was basically their offense. He was the region MVP last year. They lost him, and they've had to replace him, and they've sort of revamped their offense. Now they're doing more of a dive option type thing, some misdirection stuff, some things that we haven't handled well the last couple of weeks. So it's kind of a scary situation for us. It's a very winnable ball game for them, and it's a very winnable ball game for us. So we really got to come to work this week, have a good week of practice, continue doing the things that we know are going to help us be successful, and hopefully pull out a big win against Cheatham County Friday night.
Well, Coach Murray, for me, I just want to give a shout out. Your facilities, we came up and watched the Smith County baseball game back last year, and man, your facilities are top notch. I was just so impressed.
Well, listen, there's a lot of hard work goes into that. Our soccer coach, our baseball coaches, our softball coaches, of course, the football coaches, we all put quite a bit of pride in that in Robertson County, and our Board of Education and our administration here, Dr. Haas and Dr. Thompson, Dr. Dorsch, Mr. Owens, our administration. They want our facilities to be top notch, and they do everything they can to help us get those things. Our community's behind us. When you come here on Friday night now, it is a big game football field atmosphere. We may not have won clinic bowls and things like that yet. We're still work and a build in progress, but on Friday night when that ball kicks off, it is a big time football atmosphere, and we're very proud of what we've done with that. We've got the perfect lines on the field. We've got a 20-yard H on the middle of the field. All our lines are painted by a robot. We've got the tunnels, smoke machines. The fans are excited. We've got a great concession stand, cheerleaders, our cavalry, our pep crew, everybody just has fallen in line. It's a great community, great place to be. And they really support our facilities and making sure those things are top notch.
Yeah, we once again, Coach Murray, we appreciate you coming on, man. When I texted you a couple weeks ago, and I was excited you agreed to come on with us, and we appreciate you coming on. It gives you a chance, for everybody here in Smith County that knows you well, give you just a little insight to your program and what you're building up there. And nothing but excitement for you guys. I wish you the best of luck. And once again, we hope to have you on again and talk about a little bit more about your school and your program come this fall. And we just appreciate you coming on with us.
100%.
I really appreciate the opportunity. I get calls and texts all the time from people back home wanting to know how the season's going, how Friday night went, calling to check on X, see how everything's going with him. And I really appreciate those guys, and I really appreciate this opportunity to go on and tell a little bit about our program. We are really excited about the direction, really excited about the future, and we just hey, we call it repping the H, and everywhere we go, we do it, and I think everybody here is excited, and I hope it just continues. And I wish everyone in Smith County the most success. Both it looks like Smith County's struggling a little bit, but I'm sure Coach Dyer is going to get that back where it needs to be. He's done a great job, and of course at Gornsville, they're right on path where they need to be. Both those guys are doing a great job, so I wish them nothing but the best. And you guys in Smith County, just check on the H up here every now and then.
We got you, Coach. We got you in our back pocket.
Good luck Friday night, Coach.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Once again, Coach Murray from White House Heritage, is something, I've known Murray for a long time now. And, and as soon as he got a new job, I was like, Jonathan, we talked about, let's reach out to Coach Murray and get him on just because he does have Smith County roots. We want to get these guys that have Smith County roots to come on and talk about their programs. Even though they don't coach at Smith County anymore, whether it be Gornsville or Smith County High School, we want to give them a little bit of notoriety to their programs as well.
We're still a family. We all grew up here. I had Coach Murray as a student teacher back in the day, and I absolutely loved Coach Murray. And, it's just, that's what we want to do. That's what this podcast is about. It's not just about Smith County. It's not just about Gornsville. we want to bring on anybody that's willing to come on with us. Next week, I think we're going to highlight the golf teams. We want to talk about everything. This is not just high school football. It's not just Smith County football. This podcast is meant for everything. So
Brent Long just commented on it and said, "Tell him, Parker." So there you go. And next week, we got a pretty exciting show next week as well. As you mentioned, we're going to highlight the golf team, and guys, we're going to start bringing on some more local athletes. We're going to have a section where it's just athletes. We want the athletes to come on and talk about their season and talk about themselves a little bit. And so we're still looking for a few more sponsors to sponsor each segment that we're doing here on Dugout Dads. Next week, we do have Coach Dyer once again and Coach Jackson. And as Jonathan mentioned, we will have the golf team come on and have a couple golf players come on and talk about their season. And then also, Lebanon High School coach Chuck Gentry is going to come on next week with us and be one of our guests. So once again, we want to keep building on this. We'd love it. We're having a great time. When me and Jonathan started, it was like, 30 minutes, probably had a good podcast. Well, we're up to an hour and over now. So we're trying to build on it. We're trying to make it better for all you guys here. And we appreciate everybody that watches, that listens, that comments. We do appreciate that. We look at that. Me and Jonathan talk every day almost how we can make this podcast even better. So we appreciate all the feedback that we're getting right now.
Yes, because look, I'm learning on the fly with this. This is all new to me. So if I'm doing something wrong or you've got suggestions, I'll take constructive criticism. So if you've got suggestions, please reach out, or if you've got questions, comments. I think we're getting close. Speaking of likes and comments, I think we're getting close to that 500 followers. And once we get there, we're going to do another T-shirt giveaway. And if we can reach 1,000 followers, I'm going to give away a gift certificate.
Yeah, and look, once again, congratulations to Coach Travis Humes, the Gordonsville High baseball coach, who won our last giveaway that we did give away. We'll get with Coach Humes this week, give him his T-shirt, and you can see, like I say, we have our Dugout Dad T-shirts and our hats on. Like I say, we're trying to build this. We want to have fun with it. We want people to join us. We want to highlight each and every program here in our local communities, and once again, we appreciate everybody that watches and comments.
Yes. So
once again, for the Dugout Dads, for myself and Jonathan, we appreciate it. We can't wait till next week to bring up episode 6. We love what we do here, and to build on it. We want to build on it. And thank you from the Dugout Dads, where our skills are questionable,
but our spirit is unstoppable.